Elise and I are here making a video about assisting with grieving if we have a friend or if you know somebody that's in the grieving process. Elise and I love to do videos on our Healing Mama Hearts because we feel like we can reach more people. Also, it's easy to just click on the video when you're doing something else, taking care of your little ones or whatever, or driving. I watch videos the most when I'm driving. Actually, I don't watch it, but I listen to them. But we got so much feedback with my video on grieving that we wanted to do a follow-up video and about assisting others, the do's and don'ts of grieving. And this is going to be so broad and so like what we say is going to be just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm so excited when you guys add in what your thoughts are with it, because it's educating us and it's educating the people that read the comments on our Healing Mama Heart sites. So we're going to post this on our website, and we're going to post it on Facebook, of course, and Instagram and Pinterest. And anyway, we're hoping to reach as many people as possible. And we do this is a nonprofit organization that we have put together, and it's a lot of work, but it's really fun when we feel like we're reaching people. And it's kind of fun because I get to do this with Elise, and she's one of my best buddies. And so I'm excited.
Yeah, we had some amazing feedback from that video. Just the way that people see grief and interpret it in their own lives. I really loved the comment of how it was just different for everyone. You know, even among siblings, when you've lost a parent or something, and even among siblings, you grieve differently. Or
Yes.
husband and wife, like you're gonna grieve differently. I've seen that before too, when a lost child, maybe miscarriage or stillborn, and yeah, if you can't communicate and connect with the way that you're grieving, that can be a big stumbling block.
Absolutely. You know, Elise, you are just so right, because when Sylvia passed away a couple weeks ago, I watched her immediate children, and I was able to watch that because I wasn't as deep into the grieving, I felt like, because I'd lost my mom 3 years prior to that. So I felt like I was a little bit more off of that ledge of grieving. But I watched her daughters, and everybody handles it differently and at different times. Like, even though, one of her daughters was seemed cool and collected and everything, it's going to hit her one day when she's driving down the road, or when she goes to pick up the phone to call her mom, or when she, yeah, it's just, it hits you at different times, and it's as original as our fingerprints, I feel like.
Yeah, I think
Although,
that, like you were saying, she was cool and collected, but in my own opinion, I think that sometimes reality doesn't hit us until
yes,
later. Like
yes,
some people, it's like it happens, and you're like, whoa, and it's just all the emotions, all the feelings. And for other people, it's just like, is this even
yeah,
happening? Is this
yeah.
real? Like
This
I
is real.
can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Absolutely. Shock is a real thing with losing somebody, um, because, and it's kind of your body's mechanism to preserve you and give you the chance later when you can handle it. And shock is kind of a mechanism that's natural. One thing that I saw that somebody had posted is the similarities between PTSD and grief. And there's so many things that are parallel with those two things. And so, yeah, if it's a trauma, you've lost somebody and it was a trauma thing and it's just intertwined with PTSD, yeah, and trauma and losing somebody can cause PTSD. Like, if you got a phone call that your mother passed away, and for instance, and it was just so shocking and so much trauma, you could be have PTSD when the phone rings. Or you could, you know what I'm saying? It can cause PTSD about things if, things were sudden and abrupt. anyway, that's something. So we're kind of just recapping what my video was a while ago. And so the topic that we want to really focus on is the do's and don'ts of helping somebody with grieving. And I've got a list of things just because I didn't want to forget some of the things that I'd been thinking about with it. I'm neighbor friends with a lady, just a sweet, beautiful, amazing lady, and she lost her husband. It'll be a year ago this September. And they were inseparable, and they'd been married like 65 years, and just they did everything together. And so I'm befriending her and working with her, and just I guess when you help somebody, you're really just being a friend to them. Like there's no magic pill you can give them, and there's no magic words. In fact, I find myself trying to find a profound something to fix her. And one of the very first things that I want to say is you won't fix anybody that's grieving. You can walk with them through it, but you will not fix them, and you don't want to. It's their personal journey, and they'll resent you if they feel like you're trying to fix them, because you just automatically, when it's a good friend and it's somebody you love and they're grieving, your automatic human response is to fix them. But that's the worst thing you can do. Trust me, I've done all these crappy don't do things and I'm learning what to do, and it's rough. So any of you that are watching this, if I have done these things, I'm so sorry. But the first thing I have on my list is listen. And Elise, you are so good about this. There's been so many times I've just been a mess and I just need to talk, and you just listen. Like, that is so valuable, and sometimes my husband is sick of listening about that topic. And you can tell when somebody's sick of it. You can tell when they're not really listening. And I love how you just listen when I talk to you. It just feels so neat. So listen without thinking of comments that'll fix them, or listen without thinking of wise things to advise them with.
Right. And I think that's something that's good marriage advice as well, is that when you're going to talk to your husband, maybe self-assess first. Be like, okay, I'm going to go talk to so-and-so about this. Do I want them to give me a solution, or do I just need them to listen? And if you can communicate that with them, be like, hey, I got a lot on my mind. I just want you to listen and maybe agree with me.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
You
Yeah.
know, don't try
I'm
to fix
learning.
them.
Yeah, I agree. That is such a good point, because I'm learning when I speak to like my spouse that I've been with for 25 years. I am learning to say, I just want you to hear me. I don't want you to try to find a solution. Or if I'm really, troubled by something else that needs a solution, I'll say, help me out here. I need a solution to this problem. But yeah, they will vent if they feel safe enough, and if they feel like the person that's grieving, if they feel like you won't try to fix them and that you can handle their information and their venting, they will. And they might be in one phase of grief or another. They might be in self beat up. My girlfriend down the road, the lady that I've been helping or working with, sometimes she's in a real, just full of guilt and full of I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And it just breaks my heart. Like, it breaks my heart in half to see the steps that she has to go through. But it's very important that she goes through those things, and that she analyzes, and that she thinks about all of those. I really want to say, stop it. You did so much, and he loves you and you loved him, but you can't. You just let it flow. It's a river that has to flow. And that's the hardest part about being a listener for somebody, is some of the things, the places they go, feels true to them, even though it doesn't feel true to you. So it's their truth, it's their grief, it's not about you. And that's the thing I have to think a lot of times, is it's not about me and what I think about this person, how much I admire them. It's about what they're feeling and what they need to get off their chest.
Yeah.
So Here's another one that, Elise, you do this so well. I mean, you don't do this, and this is good. I do this, and it's not good. But don't be a cheerleader type. You know, yay, let's go do something. It's a happy day when they're down. Like
Yeah.
that can annoy them.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of meeting them where they are, maybe.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that goes along with trying to make them happy, being
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe I'll invite them to this and make them go do this and make them go do this. Well, that might not be what they need right then. But there's kind of a double edge to that, because I remember reading a quote, and it was really cute. It was about Eeyore and how he's like he's in this Pooh Bear story. He is like clinically depressed, yet they don't leave him out. They don't stop inviting him to things just because he's sad
Oh,
and feeling bad. But at the same time, you don't want to be like, okay, what's going to make them happy? Like that shouldn't be your goal. That
yeah.
shouldn't be like, okay, what are we going to do that's going to make them happy? You know, you're not. That kind of is it
Yeah.
doesn't work. It doesn't. You're going to fail. In other
Yeah.
words, just
Absolutely.
force somebody
Absolutely.
to be happy, or that be your goal. But inviting them to stuff and continuing to be their friend, I think, is still important.
You know what, Elise? While I was listening to you, I had a memory. When I was 14, my brother died in a sudden accident, and he was everything to all of us kids. He was very important in our lives and loved. And I remember being in a depression, and back then we didn't have the word depression. It was way back in the Stone Ages when we just didn't even acknowledge that it was a depression or anything. But I was in a pretty bad depression. And one time, some of my friends come and talked me into getting in a vehicle with them. I didn't want to leave the house. And they encouraged me to go with them and talked me into it. And they said, hey, we will turn around and come right back the minute you want to be back home. Just come and go for a ride with us. And it saved my life because they rolled the windows down and cranked up my favorite music, and I got fresh air in the face. And I think they even stopped and got treats or ice cream or something. I don't remember, but it felt so good to just get out in the breeze, and the wind was hitting my face, and I just was like, oh, I'm alive. Oh my gosh. And I almost didn't dare laugh with them and smile, because I almost kind of had this impression that if I was finally feeling better, then I didn't really love this person that I lost, right? So I was still going through the grieving process of I can still have fun moments, even though I loved and adored this person and I miss them like crazy. So that was, but bringing, when you said, sometimes just asking them if they want to go somewhere, uh, it was life saving for me. So that's a really neat point. So give them permission to mourn. It is okay, whatever step they're in or level they're in of mourning, whatever. I guess there's like five um, grief levels or phases. I shouldn't say levels, but phases. Just give them permission. And the next one is you can hold their hand and you can put your arm around them when they're just like in a dark place and they're talking to you. Um, and you can tell if they don't feel comfortable with that. If you're sitting by somebody and you touch their hands, if you're the kind of person that's aware of, your surroundings, you can kind of tell if they don't want that touch, the human touch. So no, here's the next one. This is a no-no. And I don't think I've done this, but I have said some things like this. No Bible verses for them. No Bible verses. As Christians, we like to just go, oh, here's a good Bible verse for you. I've done this. I did this to my brother. Oh my gosh, I thought he'd really relate to it. No, he was not in the place to have a Bible verse thrown at him. Darn it. And then here's some more things that people say. And I know I've said these. God needed him in heaven or her. God called him home. Like those things just, they don't help them at some points in their grieving stage.
Yeah. And I think
So,
that's with
yeah,
miscarriages and stuff too.
it's what?
I think it's the same with miscarriages or losing a baby, but you don't want to say, it just wasn't meant to be, or I'm sure there's so many other ones that are just like that doesn't help. you know, why do you say that? It doesn't make it less painful. I think we say those things to get rid of the pain. We're uncomfortable with the pain. We're
I
uncomfortable
know it.
with the grieving. And so we say them so it'll wipe it away, and it doesn't. It makes it awkward.
You know what? It's just flat out awkward anyway, Elise. It's just awkward because there's so much emotions and there's so much raw, broken hearts that it's just going to be awkward. But a good friend can handle awkward. We can't avoid it. I remember when my mom died, I asked one of my daughters if she was going to go to the funeral, and she says, I just don't like funerals. They're so awkward. Well, they are, and they're horrible sometimes. I mean, you laugh and you cry, and it would have been much nicer to curl up with a book at home on the couch, right? But part of going to funerals and part of going and to somebody's home that's grieving is to help, to be there for them, right? And put yourself in awkward places, because that's the only way that you're going to actually assist anybody with grieving. And do pray for them.
I had this thought at the beginning, and it has come back, so I feel like I should share it. Is that you were talking about phases and levels, and it's all different, and you can go through different things. Like if you're grieving your birthing process or the loss of a miscarriage or things like that, if you ask your friend, are you okay, and they're okay in that moment, they might still be in shock. They might still be in that some
Yeah.
other phase. So don't expect them to always be okay.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
be like, well, you were okay. Like I checked on you. Like, it could change. It could change.
Yes. Yes.
I asked um, my sister-in-law. She went through a miscarriage, and it was a year later. And I had my baby. We were both pregnant around the same time, and I had
Oh, that's tough.
with her, and something told me, ask her about how she's doing with the miscarriage and stuff. And so I did. I said, hey, how you doing with are you still okay going through that miscarriage? How did it go and everything? And she was just like, there was like a tension release. It almost like it was there. It was tense, and now it's like, oh, and she just started talking to me about it, and I was like, that was it. That she was looking at my little baby, and she was just kind of grieving to herself, and she didn't,
Yeah.
like she could say anything.
Yeah. So it almost feels like when, like in that scenario where you had your baby living and well and she didn't have hers, she maybe didn't dare say, dang it, I wish I had my baby in my arms like you do, because it's almost like she might be afraid she's ruining your joy, and she's going to mess with your happiness by saying, oh, you know. But I love that you felt inspired. It's almost like you have to wait until you feel inspired to say something and to ask them how they're doing. But I don't want people to be so worried that they're going to say the wrong thing that they don't say anything.
Right. I
Right?
think going back to that throwing Bible verses out. I think we do that to smooth it over and be happy, but we think we're doing God's work when knowing Scripture isn't God's work. It's listening to the Spirit.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
the Spirit tells you to say, because that's what they need. They don't need to hear what's been written in Bible verses.
Trust me, they have read through the Bible in search, and the Book of Mormon, everything, every good book you can think of in search of some help. And so just listening and feeling the Spirit is really actually so much more powerful than throwing a Bible verse at them. And so on social media, let's talk about grieving, helping somebody on social media that's grieving. like avoiding when somebody says, my mother passed away, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you want to scroll on by because you don't know what is going to help that broken heart. But that actually doesn't help to just scroll on by. Some of the things that have helped me when my mother died is people commenting and just saying, I love you. And I'm okay with them saying, I'm praying for your broken heart, because I believe in prayers and I love it that people will exert themselves enough. And when you're on social media, they can't just come right into your home and help you. And so I loved that. Of course, I would never say I'm praying for you with my brother-in-law that's atheist, that would be wrong. And so, according to who your audience or your person is that's grieving, you can make comments on social media. But for sure, even on social media, I don't think being a cheerleader type is going to, I think meeting them where they're at, like you said, Elise, meeting them where they're at and going, oh my gosh, that would be so hard. The most awkward things I've ever said was at a funeral where some funerals, they have people line up, their loved ones line up by the casket. And it's just such an awkward time, and you want to bridge the gap between you and the one you shook hands with, that I have said the most awkward things trying to connect with a person. Let me tell you something I said that was so bizarre, because I just want you guys out there to at least you didn't say something like this. And it was a younger person, and he was my nephew, and I wanted to just connect with him so bad. And I said, and I could smell that he had been drinking, it was pretty obvious. And I said, dang it, you didn't wait for me to party with me. You didn't wait to party with me. I would have loved to party with you. No. He left the line and he started walking outside. And I'm like, oh no. I just broke his broken heart. And I was trying to connect with him, like, oh, anyway, I followed him outside and he was so upset. And the reason why is because he had a drinking problem and he didn't know people knew he was drinking, right? It wasn't, he was trying to keep that quiet, and that's how he was coping with the moment. And already he had people on him about drinking, and I came from out of state. I had no idea what his circumstances were that way. I had no idea that it was so heavy, that comment I made. It would have been better if I would have just said nothing, just I love you. That's it. Okay, that was my most awkward. I felt very, very vulnerable telling you guys. It was my most awkward moment, and I apologized over and over to him. Every time I see him, I blush. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I stepped right in his emotional whirlwind and made it worse. Like, he would have done really good with, I love you so much. And that's it. Anyway. That's my embarrassing stuff. But do pray for people that, that is something you can do for people that are far away, that you can't be right there taking them and doing stuff with them. And yeah.
One last thing I wanted to say was that when you use drugs or alcohol, you're trying to numb those feelings. And it's okay to feel those feelings. It's okay to go through them, and if you need help, get help. But that's the only thing that drugs and alcohol do, is it gets rid of those emotions, but it gets rid of everything, all the emotions, all the feelings that you're supposed to feel. It can be hard, but you can get help with other people.
Amen.
My little one just woke up, so.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you so much, Elise. I drowned, I go to food. My go-to is food and chocolate. So it might work for a few, a week or two, but then it's not healthy. And like you said, it can cause an addiction that is actually worse. So dealing with our human emotions, that's really what we get to do. We get to deal with our human emotions, and the more we can be truthful with our human emotions, the more we can kind of move to a different spot in that grieving process and not get stuck in that path. And we will never get over the grieving. It's going to come and go all our life and throughout our lives. We can't just say, okay, those tears are going to stop at 3 o'clock today. And by darn, I have grieved long enough for this person. That's not giving yourself the grace and the chance to just deal with it every moment that it comes up. As long as we're human, we're going to have these grieving processes. Thanks, Elise. Thanks so much. I love hanging out with you and talking with you. Yes?
Me too, yep.
Did you have something? Did I overtalk?
Nope, you're good. I'm
Okay.
Lola's crying, so I gotta
Okay,
go.
yes. All right. Take care, Elise.
All right, you too.